I've been wanting to do another book haul for a long time, but I never got around to doing it. So I guess I'll do it right now. Welcome back to BG's Books. I'm Mr. BG, and today I will be bringing back the book hauls that I did last year on my channel. So, like I just implied, if you've been watching my channel last year, you would have known that I did these things called book hauls, which are basically where you just like show some of the books that you recently bought, and then just like describe some things about them, and then just see how your audience responds to that. And so I've been wanting to do another one of these for a long time, because the last time I did one was like September, October or something. I don't know, it's been a long time, and it's actually now April when I'm filming this, so I have not done one in such a long time. So I just kind of wanted to hop on and show you my most recent purchases and just kind of get back into book hauls. And if you like the book hauls that I'm doing, please leave a like and comment saying that you want me to do more, because I would do more if you guys want that. And of course, these book hauls get me a lot of views as well, and that's really good. But yeah, so basically this book haul is going to be just a little bit different from the other ones. Instead of just like having the books like near me or below me or whatever, I will grab them one by one off of this bookshelf right here, and then the rest will proceed as normally. But the format is going to be slightly different, but it should be the same result. But yeah, so now that we understand what we're doing, let's get right onto the books. So the first book I have to show off here is a very known classic. It is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. So I've never met anyone who doesn't know what A Christmas Carol is. Like, it is just that famous. I've never read it before, but I saw like the animated Jim Carrey movie from like 2010 or whenever that was. So I saw that one, but I've never read the book, but I do know extensively what the book is about. So I definitely want to read this around Christmas time. So I guess stay tuned for December for kind of what my thoughts about it are. But anyway, for any of you who somehow don't know what A Christmas Carol is about, I will read you the back of the book, which describes as follows. "Bah," said Scrooge, "humbug." With those famous words unfolds a tale that renews the joy and caring that are Christmas, whether we read it aloud with our family and friends or open the pages on a chill winter evening to savor the story in solitude. Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol is a very special holiday experience. It is the one book that every year will warm our hearts with favorite memories of Ebenezer Scrooge, Tiny Tim, Bob Cratchit, and the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future, and will remind us with laughter and tears how the true Christmas spirit comes from giving with love. So that was just a very beautiful description there. I could not have said it better myself. But yeah, so as it implied, there's this man named Ebenezer Scrooge, and then he just does not like Christmas at all. And so on Christmas Eve night, he is visited by three ghosts, one of the past, one of the present, one of the future, and they have to convince him to like Christmas, or else he will die sad and alone, just like his friend Marley did. But yeah, so A Christmas Carol is just a very wonderful story about what the true meaning of Christmas really is, spreading love and joy and happiness. None of that depressing stuff is in there. So it's like, it also seems to be a really short book. It's like a story, it appears to be. There appear to be like 99 pages in here, so it's not even 100 pages long. But it is a very quick read, and it is a very iconic read as well. So yeah, stay tuned for December, where I will read this and review it for all of you. Alright, and the second book I have for you today is another Charles Dickens novel, but it is not another version of A Christmas Carol. It is Great Expectations. And so I don't really know very much about Great Expectations. The only story I really know of about Charles Dickens was A Christmas Carol, but of course he has many other famous ones besides that, such as this and A Tale of Two Cities and a bunch of others. But for any of you who don't know what Great Expectations is about, we will read the back of the book and find out together. Great Expectations is one of Dickens' most popular novels. In addition to its endearing hero, Pip, a blacksmith's boy, desperate to escape his humble background, the story is populated by a vivid cast of characters, from the convict Magwitch to Miss Havisham, who, jilted long ago, still wears her wedding gown, and, for revenge, schools the beautiful young Estella in the art of malice towards men. When Pip receives a legacy and promptly leaves for London to become a gentleman, only then does he begin learning about the gulf between appearances and reality. So that was a very insightful back. It seems to be one of those tales where it says like reality isn't everything or like appearances and everything. And I kind of like stuff like that because there's, especially nowadays, a lot of vain people in this world who are only into appearances. So I think Great Expectations, at least from what the premise sounds like, it is a very good look on appearance versus reality. And I like that a lot. So this is definitely on my reading list. And yeah, this will be like one of the first Charles Dickens I ever read. So stay tuned for that whenever I get to that. But it will be soon, I promise. All right. So moving away from Charles Dickens, the third book I have to show you today is Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. And I don't know very much about this book or Robert Louis Stevenson, so I will read the back. Originally conceived as a story for boys, Stevenson's novel is narrated by the teenage Jim Hawkins, who outwits a gang of murderous pirates led by that unforgettable avatar of amorality, Long John Silver. Admired by Mark Twain, Rudyard Kipling, and, reluctantly, Henry James, the story has the dreamlike quality of a fairy tale. It has worked its way into the collective imagination of more than 5 generations of readers, young and old alike, gaining the power of myth. Although thoroughly British in its setting and characters, Treasure Island, as John Seale shows, has an American dimension, drawing on the author's experiences living in California, and owes no small debt to Washington Irving's Ghost Stories and James Fenimore Cooper's Tales of Adventure. This edition also includes Stevenson's own essay about the composition of Treasure Island, written just before his death. So that was what the back told me. That didn't really give me a lot of details about the story outside of the pirates and Long John Silver and all that. But it certainly seems very interesting, to say the least. And as I said, I don't know anything about Robert Louis Stevenson. That's his name. Dang it, I forgot it for like a solid second. But yeah, I've never read any one of his books before, but this certainly sounds interesting because, as it said, Treasure Island is very famous. So I've definitely heard of this book. I've just never read it or really know what it's about. So stay tuned for when I read and review this for all of you. Alright, so the fourth book I have for you today is actually another Robert Louis Stevenson book. It is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Other Stories. So the thing that made me want to get this is because I've been interested in reading Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde for a long time. But so when I found this, I thought it was just that, but it says, and other strange tales. So this is obviously like a story collection, it seems to be, of some of Robert Louis Stevenson's strangest stories, including Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which I'd argue is probably what he's more famous for than Treasure Island, but I'm sure everybody has like a different opinion on that. Anyway, so the back goes as follows. Losing hold of my original character, or losing hold of my original and better self, and becoming slowly incorporated with my second and worse. So it seems like that's a little quote from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but it continues. Victorian London is the setting for the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Stevenson's famous story of conflict between dual personalities, one good and one ruthlessly evil. Other eerie tales in this volume are The Body Snatcher, okay, so I made that, inspired by the case of Burke and Hare, Markheim, where a murderer meets a sinister smiling stranger, and The Bottle Imp, in which an imp has the dubious power to grant the owners every wish. Also, The Ware of Hermiston, an unfinished romance. So yeah, as I predicted, this just has a bunch of random stories that Robert Louis Stevenson wrote. The most famous of these is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So yeah, as I said, I've been wanting to read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde for a long time, and now I have a copy of it. So when I read this book in the near future, I will do what I do with the story collections that Stephen King has written, where I will go story by story, kind of give you the rundown and then what I think of each story, and maybe even a ranking of them. So yeah, so stay tuned. Alrighty, moving past Robert Louis Stevenson, we have The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. So Oscar Wilde, at least from what I've researched, seems to be a very controversial figure in the 1890s due to his being a member of the Pride community. And of course, nowadays, being a member of the Pride community is like one of the best things you can do. It's like, it's very widely accepted. You are loved by everyone, basically. But back in the 1890s, it was very illegal. And so, even though this book only really touches upon it, I think Oscar Wilde still wasn't saved by the trial. But anyway, the actual plot for the book goes as follows. Written in his distinctly dazzling manner, Oscar Wilde's story of a fashionable young man who sells his soul for eternal youth and beauty is the author's most popular work. The tale of Dorian Gray's moral disintegration caused a scandal when it first appeared in 1890, but though Wilde was attacked for the novel's corrupting influence, he responded that there is, in fact, a terrible moral in Dorian Gray. Just a few years later, the book in the aesthetic moral dilemma became issues in the trials occasioned with Wilde's pridefulness, which resulted in his imprisonment. Of Dorian Gray's relationship to autobiography, Wilde noted in a letter, Basil Hallward is what I think I am. Lord Henry, what the world thinks me. Dorian, what I should like to be. Or what I would like to be. In other ages, perhaps. So yeah, obviously this book seems to be about the theme of moral corruption and disintegration of the goodness that you have in your heart. And so that's really all I know about it from what I just read. It didn't go super in depth into like the main story, but it seems to have gotten the main theme, which is like moral corruption. Anyway, I've been wanting to read this for a little bit now, like a couple weeks, I think. So yeah, now I have a copy, and stay tuned for when I read this. And the next book I have for you is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. So I don't know how many of you know about the book Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but I'm sure you've at least heard of the movie Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which came out in 2005, I think. And for anyone wondering, this is what originated the meaning of life being 42, like that giant meme like 10 years ago. So that's where that came from. And what's weird is that I think this is like the first book in like a series of 5 or 6 or something. Restaurant at the End of the Universe, Life, the Universe and Everything, So Long and Thanks for All the Fish and Mostly Harmless. I don't know if those are like sequels or anything, but there's certainly other books like this, and I think it's a series, so if I can find the other ones in the series, I will of course buy them and read them and stuff. But anyway, back to the actual Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The plot for Hitchhiker's Guide goes like this. Seconds before Earth is demolished to make way for a galactic freeway, Arthur Dent is plucked off the planet by his friend Ford Prefect, a researcher for the revised edition of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, who, for the last 15 years, has been posing as an out-of-work actor. Together, this dynamic pair begin a journey through space aided by a galaxy full of fellow travelers. Zaphod Beeblebrox, the two-headed, three-armed ex-hippie and totally out-to-lunch president of the galaxy. Trillian, formerly Trisha McMillan, Zaphod's girlfriend, whom Arthur tried to pick up at a cocktail party once upon a time zone. Marvin, a paranoid, brilliant, and chronically depressed robot, and Veet Vujagig, a former graduate student obsessed with the disappearance of all the ballpoint pens he's bought over the years. Where are these pens? Why are we born? Why do we die? For all the answers, stick your thumb to the stars. So obviously, I can just tell right off the bat that this is like a comedy satire on like space adventures and asking questions and everything. So I just really like that. It reminds me of Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five right over here, which I read very recently. That was a satire against anti-war stuff, or it was a satire against war. It was like an anti-war thing. And then this seems to be a satire about space and life questions, which is really funny. But my first thought upon reading that was Bill and Ted, because Bill and Ted go on some wacky adventures with a bunch of weirdos and stuff, and so that's just reminded me like a Bill and Ted before Bill and Ted existed. But yeah, I definitely want to read this. As I said, I think it's a series, but it could also not be. So when I find that out, I will find the other Douglas Adams books, and then I will read it for you and review it for you. But yeah, so stay tuned in the future for when I review this. Alright, so the next 4 books I have for you are actually part of a series, and this first of which I got in a different bookstore trip, but I got the other 3 in the most recent bookstore trip, but I'm just going to include the first one here because it's just part of the series, and that is, of course, The Giver by Lois Lowry. So if you don't know what The Giver's about, listen to this description. Life in the community where Jonas lives is idyllic. Designated birth mothers produce new children who are assigned to family units, one that fits them, one male, one female to each. Citizens are assigned their partners and their jobs. No one thinks to ask questions. Everybody obeys. The community is a precisely choreographed world without conflict, inequality, divorce, unemployment, injustice, or choice. Everyone is the same, except Jonas. At the ceremony of 12, the community's 12-year-olds eagerly accept their predetermined life assignments. But Jonas is chosen for something special. He begins instruction in his life's work with a mysterious old man known only as the Giver. Gradually, Jonas learns that power lies in feelings. But when his own power is put to the test, when he must try to save someone he loves, he may not be ready. Is it too soon or too late? So, of course, if you didn't pick up on that, it's like in a dystopian society, or I guess it's supposed to be a utopian society that's actually dystopian, where people are assigned what they're going to do, and they have just no other say about it. And so this really examines like destiny versus choice and whatever. It's I think the themes in this book are really good. I've actually read The Giver before. It was an assignment back when I was in 8th grade, and I remember liking it okay, but when I finished it the first time, I didn't realize there were sequels, so I thought the ending was a little weird. But now that I do know that there are sequels, I will happily revisit this book and the subsequent sequels and give you my thoughts on all of them. But yes, that is The Giver, and yeah. Book 2 in the Giver series is called Gathering Blue, also by Lois Lowry. And so let's kind of read what this is about. Left orphaned and physically flawed in a civilization that shuns and discards the weak, Kira faces a frighteningly uncertain future. Her neighbors are hostile, and no one but a small boy offers to help. When she is summoned to judgment by the Council of Guardians, Kira prepares to fight for her life. But the Council, to her surprise, has plans for her. Blessed with an almost magical talent that keeps her alive, the young girl faces new responsibilities and a set of mysteries deep within the only world she's ever known. On her quest for truth, Kira discovers things that will change her life and world forever. So, yeah, there's not really a lot to say about this. It just seems like it's just a direct continuation of The Giver, and and continues to explore its themes of that and everything. So, yeah, there's not really a lot to talk about here, but because it's The Giver 2, it's worth mentioning. So, yeah, I will definitely read this after The Giver. What I'm planning on doing is like a whole Giver marathon where like I read the Giver and then this and then 3 and then 4 like back to back, and then I review all of them for you. And yeah, but this is the second one and sounds interesting to say the least. All right, and then book 3 of the Giver series is called Messenger. And the plot for Messenger goes as follows. Since Matty arrived in village 6 years ago, he has grown from an impetuous boy to a dependable young man, carrying messages through forests. He alone can pass through its deadly snares unharmed, and he hopes his gift will earn him the true name Messenger. When a sinister force seeps into village, its open borders are closed to the outside world. Matty must find Seer's daughter, Kira, before village is closed to her. But he is dismayed to find Forrest unforgiving and much changed on his journey. The strange new power building within him may now be his only hope to get himself and Kira back to village alive. So, of course, we heard about Kira there, which was the main character of 2, as we just saw, Gathering Blue. And yeah, once again, it just seems like it carries over the same things from The Giver and Gathering Blue. So there's not a lot worth mentioning here, but I will definitely read this after the first 2 Giver books. So here we have the 4th and final book in the Giver series, Sun. And so the story for Sun goes as follows. When the young girl washed up on their shore, no one knew she had been a vessel, that she had carried a product, that it had been carved from her belly, stolen, and so her journey began. But here in this wind-battered village, Claire is welcomed as one of their own. In the security of her new home, she is freed and loved. She grows stronger. As tempted as she is by the warmth of more human kindness than she has ever known, she cannot stay. Her son is out there, a young boy by now. Claire will stop at nothing to find her child, even if it means trading her own life. So, of course, that sounds like a very thrilling conclusion to the Giver series, and it's actually the longest one. It isn't like short like the rest of these ones, but this is actually very long. So it certainly has the length to be a pretty good ending to the Giver series. But, of course, time will tell for that, and I cannot wait to read and review this for you to finish off the Giver reading marathon, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Finally, moving away from the Giver series, we have a book that actually came out before the last one, but I decided to talk about the last Giver book first. We have 20th Century Ghost by Joe Hill. So, for those of you who don't know, Joe Hill is an author, and his dad is really famous. His dad is Stephen King, which, of course, I have almost all of his books right here, so I'm a very big fan of Joe Hill's dad. So if Joe Hill writes anything similar to his dad, I think I'll love his stories. And 20th Century Ghosts, I think this was his first book ever released, and it's a short story collection. One of which is The Black Phone, which became that movie a couple years ago, which everybody seemed to really like. But some of the other stories, which I don't know of, are listed on the back. Imogen is young, beautiful, and dead, waiting in the Rosebud Theater one afternoon in 1945. Sounds interesting. Francis was human once, but now he's an 8-foot-tall locust, and everyone in California will tremble when they hear him sing. How intimidating. Joe is locked in a basement stained with the blood of half a dozen murdered children, and an antique telephone, long since disconnected, rings at night with calls from the dead. So that's Black Phone, in case you're wondering. That's the plot for Black Phone. And for the next one, Nolan knows but can never tell what really happened in the summer of '77, when his idiot servant younger brother, or savant, sorry, not servant, savant, idiot savant younger brother built a vast cardboard fort with secret doors leading into other worlds. The past isn't dead. It isn't even past. So yeah, I don't know the other names for those other stories outside of the Black Phone, but it certainly seems that Joe Hill knows what he's doing when writing horror. I mean, as I said, his dad is Stephen King, the master of horror, so I think he should know what he's doing. So yeah, I've been wanting to read Joe Hill for quite a bit of time now, not as long as I've been wanting to read Stephen King or as long as I've even read Stephen King, but I've been wanting to read Joe Hill for like maybe past a year now, I think. And I think 20th Century Ghosts will be a great place to start with that. So stay tuned for when I review this. So the second to last book I have for you all today is The Adventures of Indiana Jones. And if you're like me, you'll probably love the Indiana Jones movies, at least most of them. Like, I love Raiders and Temple of Doom. Crusade was okay, but I like Crystal Skull, and then Dial of Destiny was just okay, I guess. But anyway, so basically back in the 80s when the first 3 movies of the trilogy came out, the Lucasfilm decided to authorize some novelizations of the movies be published alongside with the movies as sort of like a marketing thing, I guess. And so basically this book is an omnibus collection of the first 3 novelizations for Indiana Jones. So like Raiders is in here, Temple of Doom is in here, and Last Crusade is in here as well. So of course, if you know the story of the movies, you don't really need me to tell you about what they're about, because if you've seen the movies, you would know. But yeah, just so you know, this isn't one book in here, it's 3, and I really like Indiana Jones, so I'm really excited to read this, and I will review all 3 of them for you. Alright guys, we have finally made it to the last book in this collection that I have for you. And that, of course, is I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. So, I've never heard of Stephen Graham Jones before either early this year or late last year, because I follow a lot of book people on Instagram, and one of the books that they showed on their Instagram page was Stephen Graham Jones's I Was a Teenage Slasher. And right off the bat, the title just like was really interesting. It's called I Was a Teenage Slasher, which I think originated with that Michael Landon movie from like the 50s or the 60s called I Was a Teenage Werewolf. It didn't do so well, but it got spin-offs like I Was a Teenage Frankenstein, I Was a Teenage Mummy, stuff like that. But it looks like that Stephen Graham Jones decided to write a book with that title called I Was a Teenage Slasher. And this is the only Stephen Graham Jones book I have. And what one to start with? I really want to read this. I will read this very soon. So out of all the books you have seen in this video thus far, this is the one I'm most looking forward to reading, because the premise just seems absolutely insane. It appears to be written from the killer's first-person perspective, so that's really interesting. But the description for what the book is actually about is not on the back. It's just rather praise for Stephen Graham Jones. So I will open the book to the front jacket and read it to you from here. So it goes as follows. Lamasaw, Texas, I think that's how you say that, July 1989. It's the summer before senior year for best friends Tolly Driver and Amber Dennison. They're not in the marching band. They're not in the FFA. They don't really count. Amber's the only native student in town, and Tolly's only on the radar due to his father's recent death. This is all about to change. Bodies are going to be dropping fast in the small West Texas town. For a few unbearably hot days that will resonate through the decades and even get made into a TV movie, Tolly and Amber will be famous, notorious even. Finally, everyone will know their names. So just from that description alone, it seems like it's going to be a really fun time. At least to me, it's a slasher movie set in the 80s, and I love 80s slasher movies like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, all stuff like that, Child's Play even. But it seemed like it'll be like a satirical slasher set in 89 in Texas. And it seems to be that Stephen Graham Jones is from Texas, around the area where Lamasaw is. I don't know if that's a real town or not. But yeah, so it seems like this is like semi-autobiographical, but in a very fictionalized way, where the main character is a slasher villain. But that just seems really funny to me, and the title alone, it just really makes me want to read it. So stay tuned, because very soon I will be reading this. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, that was the last book of this gigantic haul. Alright guys, as is tradition, I am supposed to show you where the books go on the bookshelf after I get done talking about them. So let's get into this thing. So of course, first we have up is A Christmas Carol, and it is and it was published in 1843, so it is in between Frankenstein in 1818 and Moby Dick in 1851. And so moving on, we have Great Expectations, Treasure Island, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Other Strange Tales, Picture of Dorian Gray, all in a row like this. And they were released in various points throughout the 1800s. So they are in between Moby Dick in 1851 and Dracula in 1897, which I'm currently reading as evidenced by that bookmark right there. But anyway, so yeah, that is very interesting. Moving on down, here we have Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and that came out in 1979, so it is in between The Long Walk from 1979 and Firestarter from 1980. All right, moving on, and then here we have the first two Giver books, The Giver and Gathering Blue, and The Giver was released in 93, and Gathering Blue was 2000, respectively. So they are, of course, between Misery in 1987 and Dune House Harkonnen in 2000. And then moving right over here, we have The Giver 3, which was Messenger, and it was released in 2004, so it is in between Dune the Machine Crusade in 2003, and down here, Dune the Battle of Corinne in 2004. So yeah. And then over here, we have 20th Century Ghost by Joe Hill, and this one's interesting because it has like two release dates. The British publication date was 2005, but it was released in the US in 2007. I'm going to use the US release date because I live in the US, but if you want to count the British one, that's all right by me. And because it came out in 2007 here, it is, of course, between Dune, or Sandworms of Dune from 2007, and the first Hunger Games from 2008. So it's right in the middle there. And then, of course, moving right along, we have the final Giver book, Sun, which was released in 2012. So it is in between Hunger Games 3, Mockingjay, from 2010, and the first Silo book, Wool, in 2013. So, yeah, there it is. All right, and then moving down, we have two to go. So, of course, here we have The Adventures of Indiana Jones right here. And as I've said, the original, solo novelizations were released in the 80s, but it seems to be that this collection was released in 2023. So, for that reason, it is between The Weight of Blood from 2022 and Hetty Harmony Opening Night, Elizabeth Olsen's second Hetty Harmony book in 2023. So, it goes right there. And then, of course, here is I Was a Teenage Slasher, and this was released just last year in 2024, so it is in between the Stephen King Facts book by Bev Vincent and Tales of Dune from 2024. The Stephen King Facts book was 2023, by the way. But yeah, so there it is. And anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it. I really want to do more book hauls again. But yeah, so just one final look at all the books. And then let's wrap this video up. But yeah, guys, we have finally reached the end of this video. Usually my book hauls are less than 10 minutes long. Maybe one will go to 8 or 9 minutes if it's really long. But normally I have 3 or 4 books to show you. But I had a bunch this time, so of course this one took a lot longer. So I appreciate you guys watching this far, and remember, I want to read all these books so much. So stay tuned in the future. A Christmas Carol will be in December, obviously, because it's about Christmas. And then I Was a Teenage Slasher. That's actually the one on my reading list right now. That'll be the one you see very soon. But anyway, in the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like this video, be sure to leave a like down below. And leave a comment if you want me to do more of these book hauls, because I've missed doing these book hauls. I like doing them. So, but yeah, anyway, I just hope you guys had a good time. I really want the book hauls to come back, so please feel the same way. And also they get me a lot of views, so that's another reason. But I just love doing these book hauls because I love showing you the books that I have. But anyway, yeah, that is the end of the video. I've been Mr. BG from BG's Books, and I will see you guys in the next video.